Man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it does a great job representing how our ideas of freedom are more of a prison than they are choices. When we were born in the wild thousands of years ago, we were in abundance of choices. A lot of those were based on survival. It could have been the food that you hunted, the people that you frequented with, the places that you went and you explored. You had freedom of choice. Now, that choice was drastically tied to whether you would live or survive, and therefore some of those options were limited. But today we have survival, but we don't have choices. Our absence of choice starts at childhood. You go from elementary school, which is a rules-based system, to middle school, which is a rules-based system, to high school, to college, and then graduating into a rules-based society. And we never get a chance to get our heads above water and think, like, where are these rules coming from, and are they really benefiting me? Almost everything leading up to our points in adulthood is confirming that following the rules leads to good outcomes. And this is an easier reality to believe than to say that the system is unfair or even built against you. Because once you start to believe that the system is unfair, then you feel like you're running out of options. So we've created this very safe space for ourselves where we follow the rules, and we'd like to believe that the rules lead to good outcomes because facing the reality of something different is terrifying. But in order to find real success, we need to become more accustomed to being okay with the fear that our rules-based society and our ideas of freedom don't really exist. You know, we have a certain amount of healthcare, we have cars, we have luxuries like consumer products, goods, television, and that gives us this abundance of choice. But choice isn't really freedom. Our idea of freedom is more wrapped in consumerism than it is in free will. If we go to a developing country, they might be suffering, they might have, limited healthcare access, and they're more prone to, being subjugated to violence or bad shit. But they have a certain degree of choice that we've long since forgotten. In our sense of comfort in modern society, we become accustomed to living our day-to-day in a monotonous routine. And this routine slowly erodes our free will. Because no longer are we in the Wild West exploring, no longer are we hunting for food. We're watching television and working a 9-to-5 that keeps us trapped inside of our heads. And this system loves to perpetuate this idea that we don't have choice, that we weren't born free. Because if you work a 9-to-5 and if you just work every day of your life, then you never get to create something of your own. You're always creating for other people. So we have to kind of invert the system and ask, who created these rules? Who put us in this position that following these orders and these rules will lead to good outcomes? And that comes to the people in power. And the people in power don't have to obey these rules. They have enough luxury, enough money that they have freedom. So why are we still following this ideal? We can begin to break out of this behavior on an individual level. The things that we deem as weird or unusual are just ways of keeping us commodified. Like just being quirky and being silly, being ridiculous, saying things that are disagreeable are seen as wrong. And they're seen as wrong because they're threatening to the whole. They're threatening to the system as it is. And therefore, that is all the more reason to push into that and to develop your own sense of self. And often society will resist against your personal development. But once you start to feel that resistance, that is when you begin to unlock real choice. And you begin to realize that in these situations such as work, school, friendships, social spaces, just your day-to-day life, we don't have to follow such a degree of order. I believe we're starting to see it, especially with this upcoming graduating class. We graduated with this idea that if I work hard and I get this diploma, then I will get a job and I'll be commodified into this workforce. But the system is starting to fall apart. The world doesn't work that way anymore. And that can begin to be a good thing because that allows you to recognize your own freedom step by step. The system doesn't want you to recognize your individuality. because this 9 to 5, this routine, it makes you tired. I mean, many people are exhausted. I've seen a lot of peers that, they have to get up at like 6 or 7 in the morning and they work all day. And by the time that they get home, they kind of just want to rot their brains. And I can't blame them for wanting to do so. But we have to fight back this urge to be comfortable, because this urge to be comfortable is what is brainwashing us into slavery, into boredom, into nothingness. And so we should feel this certain degree of fear that at one point in our lifetimes we were free. And humans, whether you believe in soul or not, we are animals. Like an animal, like a cat, they operate for the most part on instinct. When they see food, they eat it. When they want to go outside, they go outside. When the dog wants to take a piss or a shit, it goes for it. But us, you can't piss on the sidewalk. You can't eat when you want to eat. You can't go outside when you want to go outside. We are limited, far more limited than we ever realized, because we were born into a system of discipline, order, and punishment. And while our parents were trying to raise us correctly, they were raising us to fit modern society, which is all the more reason to push back against it, because they wanted safety for us. But safety is never what gave us real freedom. It comes with fighting back. And I really love the movie Fight Club, because I think it hits hard at the ways that society has brainwashed us. Tyler Durden talks a lot about consumerism and the ways that we assign our identities to our clothes and our comfortability. He says, "You're not your fucking khakis. You're not your fucking job." Yeah, that's kind of verbatim. And I can't help but agree with it, because what's the point in achieving all of these marks of success when you're boring, when you aren't having fun, when you're comfortable? Like, we're going to get comfortability at some point, but this survivalist mindset that we all have to operate within is what is actually taking our choices away. So it's time to start being weird, and time to start being slightly dysfunctional and pushing back against norms. Whether you're a kid, maybe that comes with saying to your parents, "Hey, no, I want to go do this thing. I want to have this opportunity to do this behavior at this time," and allowing a certain degree of freedom to spread into your life. Maybe it's the job choice that you're taking. And instead of being some accountant, you want to be a doctor. Maybe you want to be the next biggest scientist. Maybe you want to be a creative. You're going to have to take those risks to reclaim your free will, because we started off without free will. So how are we going to get it back? And the key to this is our minds. Our mind really is the biggest cage, because ever since I started to disobey rules, even on a small level, I began to see a greater degree of possibility and a greater degree of possibility for success. So maybe that's cutting in line. Maybe that's not waiting your turn to ask for permission. These small activities are what will break you out of your cage, because humans were always meant to be free. We're animals. We have instincts, and you have to learn to let them out by breaking the rules little by little.